Hello everyone. Today our lesson will be on chemical bonds. We'll learn about stability of atoms. So, what is a bond? Coming into our social lives, we have friendship bonds. So, why do we even form friendship or friendship bonds? You see, we can be able to have friends, to be able to socialize with them. We can chat, we can even seek help from them. So in the same way, atoms also form bonds with themselves. And why do they also form these bonds? They form these bonds to be able to gain stability. They form bonds. Atoms form bonds to gain stability. So now let's look at how atoms can be able to get stability, or what atom is stable. An atom with only one shell can be stable if it has two electrons. Note, one shell with two electrons is stable, and this rule that governs it is called the duplet rule. The duplet rule, here is it. Duplet rule. Only one shell with two electrons. So the duplet rule is for atom with only one shell with two electrons. That atom is stable. And also atoms with more than one shell, from two going, we have what you call the octet rule. That one is for only the last shell, or the valence shell, or the outermost shell. They are all the same. The last shell, outermost shell, or valence shell. If it has 8 electrons, that atom is stable. If the last shell of the atom is or contain 8 electrons, then the atom is stable. And the rule that governs it is called the octet rule. So we have the octet rule. The octet rule. For atoms with more than one shell, and the last electron, or the last shell, or the outermost shell, or the valence shell, has 8 electrons. 8 electrons. So for octet rule, it applies for atoms with more than one shell, which has 8 electrons at the valence shell, or the last shell, or the outermost shell. Let's look at these examples. So looking at these examples, we have to tell which of these atoms is stable. Now, the circle in the middle, the first circle, is the nucleus. And the nucleus contains the protons and the neutrons. So the nucleus contains the protons and the neutrons. And now we have the first shell and then the last shell. So since the shells are more than one, then the rule that you have to follow is the octet rule. The last shell should have a maximum, or should have 8 electrons for that atom to be stable. So which of these atoms is stable? You may not know what the atom is, whether carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, or what. But yet still, since we know the rule, octet and duplet rule, we can know whether it is stable or not. So now, let's check the first atom. We have 2 shells, so we go for the octet rule, which states that the last shell or the outermost shell or the valence shell should have 8 electrons. So we have the first shell having 2 electrons and the last shell having 4 electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's draw the electron configuration. So the first shell have 2 electrons and the last shell have 4 electrons. So is this atom stable? You are right, it is not, because the octet rule states that the last shell should have 8 electrons. So this atom is not stable. Let's check this atom too. We have the nucleus which contains the protons and the neutrons. And now the first shell and the last shell. So since the shells are more than 2, it must follow the octet rule. So now octet rule states that the last shell should have 8 electrons, or the valence shell should have 8 electrons. So let's write the electron configuration. We have the first shell having 2 electrons, 1, 2. So we have 2, comma. In the last shell we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 electrons. So this atom is said to be stable because it follows the octet rule. It follows the octet rule, which states that the last shell should have 8 electrons. Now let's identify these atoms. What are these atoms? So with the configuration, you can just know the atoms. So you have 2 plus 4, 6. Which atom has the atomic number of 6? It's carbon. So we have this to be carbon atom. So it means that carbon is an unstable atom. Now let's check the other atom. We have 2 plus 8 giving us 10. So what atom has the atomic number of 10? We have neon. And obviously neon is a noble gas, so it is stable. Now let's check the other example. Now let's check these atoms. We have our first atom. It has only 1 shell. Here's the nucleus. It contains the protons and the neutrons. So only 1 shell. We are just looking at the duplet rule, because the duplet rule goes for atoms with only 1 shell, then with 2 electrons. So since this atom has only 1 shell with 2 electrons, then this atom is stable. So let's write the electron configuration. We have just 2, and it is stable because it follows the duplet rule. Let's check the other atom. So you have 2 shells. So now we won't go for the duplet rule, but we go for the octet rule. And for the octet rule, the last shell should contain 8 electrons. So let's write the electron configuration. We have the nucleus here. Now with the first shell we have 2 electrons. So we have 2. The last shell we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 electrons. So is this atom stable? You are right. It is not, because it has 5 electrons in the outermost shell. And for duplet rule, it should have 8 electrons. Let's check the last example. We have 2 electrons here. So before you start, we have 3 shells. And 3 shells, since it is more than 1 shell, we will go for the octet rule. And octet rule says that the last shell should have 8 electrons. So for this atom, the last shell should have 8 electrons. Let's write the configuration. So we have 2 here for the first shell. Now second shell we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 electrons. In the last shell we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have 8 electrons. So now is this atom stable? Right, it is stable because it has 8 electrons in the last shell and it follows the octet rule. So now let's know the atoms. So for the first atom we have 2 electrons. So which atom has 2 electrons, or which atom has the atomic number of 2? You are right, it is helium. So this is the helium atom. Now let's check this one too. We have 2 plus 5 giving us 7. So which atom has an atomic number of 7? You are right, you have nitrogen. So this is a nitrogen atom. Now let's check the last one. We have 2 plus 8 giving us 10 plus 8 giving us 18. So which atom has the atomic number of 18? You are right, it is argon. So we have argon. So now we know the octet rule and the duplet rule. We can now you can now identify atoms which are stable and atoms which are not. Hope you enjoyed the lesson. This is Jiro's Steady World. You have to like, subscribe, and share.